What is up, Braves country, and welcome to our Sports Talk ATL official Braves podcast. Me and Jake have been waiting to do this for a while. I am your co-host, Chase Irle. I'm here with Jake Gordon, who's been here with Sports Talk ATL from the beginning. We're super excited for this. The name we're questioning, but everything else, we got a lot of good stuff for you, and we're going to have some guests in the future. So we're really excited to get this started. How you doing tonight, Jake?
I am great. I'm definitely we've just been putting this off for so long, but the Braves, I guess that was the deal. Once they got above 500, we'd do the podcast.
Yeah, I think that was the whole thing. We were basically waiting for any ounce of positive energy to get us up to do this, and we finally got it. I think we're both excited. I think we're both, thinking that the Braves are going to string together some more wins, hopefully eclipse the Phillies and get back into the playoffs. But it's at least worth talking about. For a while there, it was, especially after the Acuna injury, it was like, do I really want to start a podcast right now? But after the trade deadline, getting 4 out of 5 wins, getting over 500, it feels good to be back talking about the Braves on a podcast.
Yeah, the whole Ronald situation, that was when things really were like, oh, we actually might be done in for. But they made, the Braves, they made some solid moves. I really like all the guys they picked up. We haven't even seen Eddie Rosario yet, but we'll get into all that in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, they made a lot of really solid moves, and they didn't really have to give up much. I mean, we all like Bryce Wilson, and like you said, we're going to talk about all these deals individually. But, I mean, other than that, not a single top prospect. I mean, Bryce Wilson wasn't even considered a prospect anymore, but at 23, he's definitely, would have been a top 10 prospect if he didn't graduate already. So that was a little bit of a tough loss. We like Bryce Wilson. We're always going to remember that Game 4 of the NLCS where he outdueled Clayton Kershaw and looked like, I really thought at the beginning of the year he was going to be a big piece of this rotation. I thought he was going to build off that. But for some reason, and I don't know why, he never really got that opportunity. I mean, they still kind of just yo-yoed him. And I just think he has a lot of talent, so I'm glad he's going to a place like Pittsburgh where he can pitch a little bit more, really get his feet wet. I think that's the problem with Kyle Wright and Bryce Wilson. They just have no consistency. They're constantly getting yanked around. And I'm happy to see how he does in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, those first 2 starts I saw yesterday, they lost, of course, but he pitched 6 innings and gave up 3 runs, and those were the only runs of the game. And I think he got a loss. Well, I guess he got a loss for that because they did lose. But I mean, he didn't pitch bad. He's not a bad pitcher. He's just had some tough moments, and the spotlight's pretty bright in Atlanta. And I think if he goes over there, he can be a pretty steady guy just for a couple years.
Yeah, but looking at the Braves, it kind of feels like with these new additions, everything's coming together. The rotation, Max Fried's back. I think he has a 2.0 something ERA over the last couple weeks. You got Charlie Morton, who's pitching like a Cy Young candidate. If he'd been doing this all season, he probably would be a Cy Young candidate. If there's a playoff series tomorrow, Charlie Morton's who I'm giving the ball probably to. I mean, he's just been that consistent for a while. Ian Anderson on his way back. Huascar Ynoa on his way back. Drew Smiley's put it all together. Kyle Mueller's been a pleasant surprise. Same with Tuki Toussaint. So the rotation's been solid for a while now. But now the bullpen over the last month has actually been really good. They were the top ranked bullpen for the month of July 6th or July 7th through 6th or something, or August 6th. So for the last month, they've been one of the best bullpens, and they should be getting some pieces back. And now you see the Braves getting over to 500. The Mets have just collapsed, which I think is hilarious. It's just such a Mets way of kind of losing the division. And the Phillies, they've won 8 in a row, so now they're atop of the division. So how do you kind of see this shaking out moving forward? The Phillies are hot, but they played the Nationals and the Mets. Those aren't exactly world beaters.
Yeah, and the problem is with the Phillies is it doesn't get much more difficult after this. I think in terms of schedule difficulty after the All-Star break, I think they were second in terms of easiest. So yeah, they're not exactly going to be going through a gauntlet, and that's going to cause the Braves a lot of trouble when you consider there's going to be 2 wildcard teams coming out of the NL West, and that's both spots. So you got to win the division to make the playoffs.
Yeah, we're kind of creeping up there on those West teams. I mean, if they start beating each other up, you never know. I think they're 6 games back of the wild card. That's a lot, but I mean, you saw how quickly 6 games can go. I mean, the Mets are now 2 games out of first, and they were just 5 games up on everybody. So, if those teams out west, I mean, I'm sure I haven't looked at it, but the Dodgers, Giants, and Padres have to play each other 20 times probably over the last 2 months of the season. That's usually how the schedule shakes out. So one of those teams, I mean, the Giants are 30 games over 500, so probably not them. But if the Dodgers or the Padres kind of struggle against those 2 teams, which is very possible, you never know. I mean, obviously the division I think the Phillies are very gettable. They do have an easy schedule, but I just think they've really taken advantage of games against the Mets and Nationals. They're probably playing two of the worst teams right now in baseball, especially after the Nationals offloaded all their whole team. So I think they've taken advantage of that. Good for them, but I like to see it. They still play, I think, the Dodgers coming up, so we'll see how they respond to that. And I think the Braves, they have an upcoming schedule, very gettable. Orioles, Marlins, Nationals, and Reds. I think you could see the Braves in first place by this time, in 2 weeks.
Yeah, somebody tweeted this, and sorry, I forgot who you were, but somebody said I think the Phillies play one team with a winning record in all of September or something crazy.
And it's probably
the Dodgers.
It's probably the Dodgers. No, they play the Dodgers. I think coming up. I actually think that's who they play next.
Well, it's funny because we always tweet out the Mets have this 13-game stretch with the Dodgers and the Giants, and they didn't even make it that far.
Yeah, which is crazy. I mean, just think. That's why when Pete Alonso said that the other day, and Pete Alonso seems like a really nice guy. He really does. He's kind of quirky, but he seems like a really nice guy. And if I had him on my team, I'd love him. He almost kind of has like a Freddie feel to him. The way he talks, he's just like a nice guy, cares about his business and, doesn't really cause a lot of problems. But there's no way he can sit there and say, like, knowing that they've just lost the way they have against not very good teams, and now they have a stretch upcoming in about a week where they have to play 13 games versus the Giants and the Dodgers, who have the two best records in the league. There's no way you can sit there and smile and just think, oh, we got this, especially with the way the Braves and Phillies, they made additions. Their teams are feeding off those additions. And I think, the Phillies are definitely the team to beat. I almost count the Mets out of it already. I know that's kind of crazy, but I just feel like with that stretch upcoming, I don't think they can survive that.
I just love that Steve Cohen, their owner, is on Twitter. That was just such a terrible mistake. Why would you ever do that?
Oh, I think it's so funny how he's just like, yeah, the guys, they're in the clubhouse. I could tell they're ready to win this game. It just absolutely gets slaughtered. But he's been a hoot on Twitter. I mean, he's been hilarious. Some of the stuff he said, I love how he gets on there and he's like, all right, so who should I trade for? It's just you got and because the Mets fans, the one thing I'll give them credit for, that's a passionate fan base. They've been through it. They got some diehard fans, and it's getting 3,000 responses. I mean, imagine if Alex Anthopoulos was just sitting on Twitter and he was like, all right, who are we targeting at the trade deadline? I mean, Braves Twitter would go nuts.
Yeah, exactly. But I love how as the Mets season has declined, his Twitter has as well. Because it started off, he's like, so what do you guys think about giving Lindor an extension? And now it's just all right, buddy, you guys really don't know what you're talking about. The thing with the Kumar Rocker, he was like, education time, guys. There's some kind of return on it. He just sounded like such a prick. And I'm like, the Mets are just, you can feel the collapse coming when the owner's on Twitter starting beef with the 13-year-olds.
I also think it's funny, sometimes he'll get a tweet back, and it's all usually in just good jest, but he'll just be like, I'm not in a joking mood right now. I am not having fun. And I trust me, that's basically
when the Mets get eliminated, I'm gonna have to find that one and retweet it.
That's basically been how we felt about the Braves all season. It's just after one of those losses, if some smart ass, tweets at me, I'm just like, damn it, just leave me alone. I don't need to deal with this crap right now. But just stop. But I think it's hilarious. And I just imagine what, especially with how crazy Braves Twitter is, what life would be like if Alex Anthopoulos was just out there tweeting. Even if it was just dumb tweets, basically roster updates or, things that don't even have to do with baseball. He would have 5,000 replies for just angry Braves fans just tweeting crazy nonsense. And most of it wouldn't even matter. It would be most of it wouldn't even be true because these people are crazy. They're so overreactive. Will Smith blows one game, he's the worst closer of all time. Doesn't matter what he's done for the last 2 months. Just completely disregard that. He has a 1 whip all season, which is very good. His FIP's I think around 3. Okay, maybe he's not worth 40 mil. He wasn't good last year, but you had the COVID thing. But people are so reactionary that it's just I don't know how Steve Cohen does it because I would be going nuts with all those replies.
Yeah, and I don't think it's Braves fans in general. I think it may just be a baseball fan thing. But I think since there is 162 games, people get so freaked out over one game. And if we lose, if we the game we lost against the Nationals, the Will Smith game, I was like, whatever, this sucks.
Yeah, I mean, shit, that sucks.
It's still one game at the end of the day, and I was like, I was like, wow, we really should have won that one. But it's not like a 16-game season or a 17-game season in the NFL where it's okay, well now we might miss the playoffs. It'll be okay. The Alec Boehm thing, I get everybody freaking out about that, especially because it was the beginning of the year. But people just get so tore up when we lose a Wednesday afternoon game against
I
the
think
Reds or something.
I like know where they're coming from and I think because we've done this site for so long and made and we're always kind of given like our predictions. That's basically what our site's about, giving our opinions, not necessarily just writing a bunch of crap that people want to hear. I think we've learned over the years not to be so reactionary, because when you do that, you end up looking like a dumbass 3 months down the road. So I think I understand where a lot of baseball fans are coming, but like when you get a platform and you start typing thing, and then people are going to always like let you know when you're wrong, you kind of have to stop being that reactionary. And I feel like that's where we've learned it. But I understand where the baseball fans are coming from that don't have that and don't really care. Like most people aren't even listening to them. They're just replying to like people that will listen. And I get it. I get it. But at the same time, baseball is such a long season. There's so much volatility with so many of these players. It's like one second Dansby Swanson looks like he should be going to AAA. The next second he's the best shortstop in the majors for the last 2 months. You got to just let these things play out and then kind of just take an overview at the end of the season and see where you're at. But I get where the Braves fans are coming from, but sometimes take a little chill pill. The Braves bullpen's actually been really good. The moves that Alex Anthopoulos has made, really good. And I'm excited about where this team's heading. I do think we're going to win the division. I'm very confident in that, but we got to get it done over the next. I think we got 50 games left exactly.
Yeah, shout out to that guy, by the way. He quote tweeted the article. I think you wrote about how the Braves bullpen had been better, or about how Will Smith wasn't that bad, or whichever one it was. And he was like, yeah, there's like this Fangraphs article that says like how bad bullpens in general have been this year. And it probably has a lot to do with, cracking down on foreign substances and whatever. But yeah, the Braves have been the best over like the past month, and like everybody has a terrible bullpen this year, which makes me feel a little bit better in a weird way, I guess. But I mean,
well, let's talk about that bullpen because it's been that good, and I think it's only going to get better. Do I think with the current group their success over the last month is sustainable? No, but with getting Richard Rodriguez, Will Smith's been pitching better. I talked today about AJ Minter possibly come back, giving it a boost. I think is probably going to go to the bullpen. That's another big arm you'll have back there. They might throw Toussaint or Mueller back there when Anderson's back. I just think who else has been really good? Matt's been great for about 2 months going on. And then you have some unsung heroes like Jesse Chavez, Luke Jackson, Edgar Santana, who have all been really good. And that's probably not sustainable. But when you put all those guys together and, you're asking Jesse Chavez to pitch in 5-run games and Edgar Santana to pitch in 5-run games and Mentor to pitch in 3-run games, and then you have your big guns like Matzik and Will Smith and Richard Rodriguez for the close ones, that's a pretty solid unit. I mean, especially if and Toussaint can contribute back there. So I'm actually pretty confident in this group moving forward down the stretch. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a punishment, but I do think is going to have to go to the bullpen. Like, I don't think it's going to be like, you shouldn't have punched the dugout and broke your hand, but I think he's just like a logical choice to slide over. I've said from the beginning, you just put your 13 best guys out there. I don't care if they're starters, closers, relievers. I don't care if one of them is the 50-50 raffle guy. Get your 13 best arms out there. Like, I don't want to hear, this guy's our high leverage guy. Like, no, just it's not as easy as people make it seem sometimes. And I'm prone to being hard on Brian Snicker. But when you pitch AJ Minter in high leverage situations, like 4 games in a row, and you lose 3 of those 4 games, like, yeah, people are going to be annoyed about it. I think it really just boils down to getting your best guys and situational awareness. Like, if they do bring AJ Minter back up, you cannot pitch him in the 8th inning when we're up by 1. Like, that's
not at least for a few weeks. Not until he's shown, that he can handle a 2-run game. When he can handle a 3-run game. I mean, he's got to be pitching garbage time. He's got to work his way up over the next 2 months. It's got to be pitch. I don't mind him being a setup man again maybe at the end of the year, but he's got to pitch in garbage time and prove that he can handle it. He's got to pitch with a 3-run lead, a 2-run lead, and then maybe you give him a 1-run lead in like the 7th inning, and then maybe you move on from there. But he's got to build up that confidence. We've talked about Minter a million times. He's a nutcase. I mean, he just is really just one of those pitchers that has all the stuff in the world, but if he puts one runner on base, you never know what's going to happen next. He could just completely implode, even if he struck out the first 2 guys. That's just how he's always been. But we've seen him respond, to a time in AAA and, taking some time off, and he's responded well. So yes, he's fallen off and blown up and had to get optioned, but he's also come back and, tossed a 0.8 ERA last year in 2020 over 20 innings. He threw 3 innings as a starter. in the NLCS, which is just ridiculous,
Yeah.
and struck out 7 guys. So like obviously he has a ridiculous amount of talent, but you definitely have to ease them in. And that's something that Snicker hasn't done. But at the same time, he didn't really have a choice early in the year. Everyone was sucking out of that bullpen. Now it seems like he has a little bit of a choice, especially with Matzik and Smith and now Richard Rodriguez. You at least have 3 guys you trust pretty confidently. I know people want to give Will Smith a lot of shit, but those are 3 guys I trust, to even finish the game if they have to.
Yeah, and Chris Martin, I've said this time and time again. We haven't really talked about him, but the guy was playing in Korea 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, the spin rate thing was probably going to be an issue for him, and his spin rate has, slowed down a lot. But I think he's adjusted. Okay, he's had some bad outings, but he hasn't been completely worthless. He's still a piece. I don't know if he's going to be a leverage piece. I wouldn't personally put him in leverage situations. If I want a right-hander, I'm just going to go with Luke Jackson or even maybe Jesse Chavez, honestly. But Martin's still, he's still viable. He's not the guy he was last year, maybe even 2 years ago, but I definitely think he's still viable. It just kind of sucks to get him that contract last offseason.
Yeah, I think, Richard Rodriguez is another guy that suffered after the spider tack thing, and that was before the Braves. I think he had a 4.5 ERA since the ban before the Braves traded for him, but he's been really good since, and his stuff looks great. I do think you make a good point at I think you have to adjust. I mean, a lot of these guys have been using the spider tack, the sticky stuff, whatever they've been using for years now, and now even if I think the difference in their performance is a little over exaggerated right now because they've been doing it for so long. I think a lot of these guys will kind of adjust, figure out how to pitch. At least the good guys will figure out how to pitch without it and, find success. But I think with Martin, I think he's gotten better since the ban. But it is one of those things where I do think it's going to take some, time to adjust before they really are going to get back to being, Chris Martin was never elite, but he was a very good reliever.
Yeah, he just absolutely got hurt at the worst times, but
and gave up a homer to Cody Bellinger in Game 7 of the World. Whatever.
But one guy I got to give a shout out to is Luke Jackson. I mean, I don't think he was ever going to sustain that 1.6 ERA he started out with, but Luke Jackson, it's so funny. You just never hear any complaints about Luke Jackson anymore. I mean, you shouldn't. I mean, the guy, he has
a 2.14 ERA.
Everybody's still great. Oh, well, I don't trust him. It's like, okay, well, it doesn't matter if you don't trust him because if he's going out there and getting it done, I don't care, really what you think about him. But
yeah, I've always been a Luke Jackson fan. I mean, I remember, I don't know how many articles I had to write in 2019 when the Braves bullpen was just atrocious until they got Melanson and all those guys. But that first half of the year, that guy was going out there and getting 5 outs and no one else could get an out in the Braves bullpen and the people would still find a way to blame him. I'm like, dude, he can't do it every night. He can't go out there and be Superman. This is a guy was supposed to go into that season as a 5th or 6th inning guy. And he was the closer for the first 100 games. And people were complaining.
We traded Dario Alvarez and Lucas Harrell for him. Do you even remember? You remember those two guys?
No. I don't remember them at all. That's what I'm saying. So the fact that he was getting shit on that season was pissing me off so much. I'm like, this guy was not even supposed to make the roster. And now he's closing games and he's doing a half decent job at it. And you guys are complaining about him, complain about the ownership, complain about the GM who put us in this situation. That year was a frustrating one, but Luke Jackson saved our butt. And now he's pitching even better this year, I think, because he hasn't been asked to do as much crazy stuff. But after a terrible 2020 where he wasn't even on the playoff roster, it's been a pleasant surprise. And I think that's a guy you have to give more high leverage situations to moving forward.
Yeah, I think they're still just ready to jump on him. That's how they were with Will Smith. Will Smith was locked down for a month. As soon as Luke Jackson comes in and gives up a 3-run home run to lose the game, everybody's be like, I told you Luke Jackson was worthless. It's oh, well, his ERA is 2.28 now instead of 2.14.
I know. No, it's ridiculous. But that, like we said, reactionary people, this is what they do, especially on Twitter where it's just, that they can't help themselves. They cannot help themselves but complain or bark at someone or pull up some article that you had from 4 months ago where you're like, yeah, Luke Jackson's actually good. And then it's 6 months later, he gave up a home run. No, you're wrong, asshole. And I'm like, come on, man.
My favorite too is everybody, I'll be like, all right, guys, like I really hope Tukey pitches well tonight. And then somebody will be like, old takes exposed. I'm like, that's not a take. It's not an opinion.
It's not even it's not even like, yeah, Tukey's gonna go out there and throw 9 innings of 2-hit ball. And it's like, no, I just hope he actually pitches well. I like him as a prospect and really think he could help the Braves. Old takes exposed. He pitches like crap.
He gives up 3 runs in 3 innings. Like, dude,
well, this is a good transition into our first Just Stop Tweeting. If you ever followed the Sports Talk ATL podcast, this was like our first segment. So this will be our only segment, but I'm sure we'll have a bunch of them like leading up besides answering fan questions. We'll come up with some as the podcast gets older. But Just Stop Tweeting is basically when we find a guy who basically says some ridiculous stuff that should never be tweeted. We had a few good candidates, but this one takes the case from Scott Karasik. I think he is let's see what he does. He is a Falcons Wire.
This is all in good fun. We're not like
No. This is Scott Karasik. If you're listening to this, I'll give you a shirt. I'll give you a shirt. But it's just hilarious because I don't know where this was coming from. I don't know how you logically thought like this. So I have to put you as our Just Stop Tweeting, especially how the tweet aged. That's really it. He said the Braves have to win this was on August 3rd. The Braves have to win every series till the end of the season to have a shot at catching the Mets. Like, that was a real tweet on August 3rd. As we're recording it, it is August 9th. The Braves are now in front of the Mets. So it's almost more about how this tweet aged. I mean, I thought it was ridiculous that he said that because how the Mets were playing. They've been playing like crap ever since for 3 months now. The Braves haven't been able to play any better. So I was like, if they just go on a losing streak, the Braves can string some wins together. They'll catch up to them. What do? They win 5 of 6 or whatever, and now they're ahead of them in the standings. So Scott Karasik, no offense to you, but that was definitely a freezing cold take if I've ever seen one.
Hey, dude, you should be honored, man. You get the first one in the first episode. Like I said, we're just palling around. We could probably, we need to do this segment. This is on the fly. We need to do this segment with one of our tweets. We need to dig up one bad take from ourselves.
I could find a million. I actually let one loose today on the NFL that I'm sure you're like, and we can even discuss this, even though it's a Braves podcast. Josh Allen is overrated as hell.
What's wrong with you? Like, what you?
I'm just saying. Okay, like I'm not saying that Josh Allen can't be a good quarterback. But
he already is a good quarterback.
Okay. Like, I'm not saying that he can't continue this level of play. Like, he had a great season last year. There's no doubt about that. People can say, oh, that's the first year he had Stephon Diggs. He never really had a receiver, blah, blah, blah. Like, is his 3rd year in the league. I get all that. But how are you going to pay a man after one good season $280 million? Like, that is the definition of overrated. The 2 seasons before that, he is below 60% completion. He has never thrown for more than 20 touchdowns. He has never thrown for more than 3,500 yards other than this past season, which he was amazing this season. I'm not taking that away, and maybe that is what we see from him for his whole career, and this contract turns out worth it. But he just got Patty Mahomes money. And he had one good season.
Here's the thing, though, is wait till – because Baker and Lamar are going to get more than that. But Baker may not get more than that.
If Baker – well, all right. So, I mean, now we're just getting into all my hot takes because I think Lamar Jackson is trash. But you have to understand, like, I am comparing I just get so much hate as a Falcons fan for Matt Ryan. Like, I get so many ridiculous, like, people telling me Matt Ryan's not a top 20 quarterback, Matt Ryan's not a top 15 quarterback, whatever, his whole career. So I have to come up with my own crazy takes just so I can start going at other people. And, like, you know what? My crazy takes are Lamar Jackson can't win a playoff game or can't win, a Super Bowl because he can't pass the ball. And Josh Allen is overrated. And it's just because I actually like Josh Allen and I hope he's going to be good. I like watching him play. I'm just saying that was a ridiculous contract to me. I feel like you should have at least seen him do it 2 years because what does it harm? Like that is the max you could give him. Like what does it harm waiting to see if he does it again?
Yeah, I don't think the salary cap's going to go up that much higher. I don't disagree, but if the Bills win a Super Bowl, they could have given him twice as much, and it would still be worth it. So.
Oh yeah, I mean
he backloaded that deal too. I think for like I think for like 2 or 3 years, it's backloaded. So, and then they have like an out.
And they'll probably just restructure that and just keep spreading it out. That's just how the NFL
team
works.
Friendly. I will say, but I mean, dude, he's 6'7", he throws rockets, and he can run. What else?
Oh yeah, and he's a funny guy, so I like him and I'm cheering for him. But I'm just saying, like, people are already like, you see him on lists as like a top 5 QB, and I'm like, you're really gonna do that after one season? Like, I know, like, we're talking about this whole reactioning reactionary thing, but that's just that, that's what I'm saying. Now we can go back and look at this in 6 months and we can go laugh at Chase because he's going to win the MVP. So, I'm sure I'm not afraid to put him out there.
That's my pen to paper NFL take for this year. I don't have many of those, but I'm going Josh Allen MVP.
MVP. All right, put it on the board. Put it on the board. Well, let's get back to Braves here. We have an upcoming winnable schedule. Unfortunately, we don't know when this podcast is going to be posted. Hopefully it's posted very soon after we record this, which is August 9th. But at this time, we've got the Reds upcoming tomorrow. Then we have, in some order, I think it's Nationals first, but it's Orioles, Marlins, Nats after that. The Reds have been playing good ball. I think they're up to 10 games over 500. Good team. But other than that, I mean, Orioles, Marlins, Nats, especially after the trade deadline when most of them, gutted their whatever good pieces they had. I mean, those are games where at this time of the year, you have to win, what do you say, 7 out of 9 at least?
Yeah, it goes Reds, Nats, Marlins, Orioles, which I thought was weird because it's at Nats and at Orioles, and I thought it would just be easier to go from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore, but whatever, I'll make the schedule. But yeah, I mean, I talked about that series of 12 games, and I said like 9-3 is probably like best case scenario considering they're all on the road. Like that's pretty good. I think if you go below like 7-5, or I mean at 7-5, whatever, the Reds are a good team, but below 7-5, it's like okay, we wasted a really golden opportunity before we get into the home stretch because like we said, the Phillies, their schedule's not going to get much more difficult. So these are the games you have to win.
Yeah, I actually think I was looking at the Phillies schedule the other day because I remember it being really weak. But then I think they have the Dodgers, some crappy team, maybe the Nationals again, or Diamondbacks or something like that. And then they play San Diego. So at the same time, we have this really easy stretch. They have to play San Diego and Los Angeles with a crappy team in between. And that's a stretch where, we definitely have the edge schedule-wise. And that's not going to happen for the rest of the year much of the time. So you definitely want to at least pick up these 2 games over this stretch, I would say. Hopefully you're at least tied for first, and then you got 6 weeks left to basically just play 1 game better than the Phillies, which I think the Braves should do. I think they're a much better lineup. I think their rotation's much better outside of Zach Wheeler. And Aaron Nola, he struggled a little bit, but he's obviously a stud. And bullpen, I think they're pretty much a wash. So I do think the Braves are the best team in the division, which is why they think they'll win it. But the schedule's definitely not in their favor, except for these couple weeks coming up.
Yeah, and I even think these Braves, no Mike Soroka, no Ronald Acuna, I still think they're better than the Phillies. And it sounds so stupid, it's such a trope, but they just have to play like it. And, they have been playing like that recently. That game against the Nats, hey, those you're going to have those sometimes. Sometimes a guy's going to connect on one. That guy's like a career 167 hitter or whatever, and he smashed a walk-off home run. It happened to us earlier against the Phillies. What was his name? Luke Williams?
First homer. Williams.
First career home run. Yeah, that's just going to happen sometimes. We've done that to people. We had Rafael Ortega hit a grand slam off of Dustin May against the Dodgers a couple years ago. Like, it just happens.
Yeah, great moment.
But I saw the Braves play pretty much a complete ball game until the very end. And, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and nitpick Brian Snitker for not using Richard Rodriguez versus Will Smith, whatever. They still played pretty good ball, and they were playing complete games. Yesterday got a little ugly towards the end with the Adam Duvall mishap, but they still won. And if you could see them we've talked about this all year, the Braves have had trouble just putting together all phases of a complete game. The starting rotation shows up, they don't score any runs. The offense shows up and scores 6, they give up 8. It just never felt like everything was in sync at the same time. And I feel like we're kind of starting to see that now. And that's why they're over 500. That's why they're winning.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the run differential, they're almost plus 70 and nobody else has a positive run differential. So by the Pythagorean theorem or whatever that thing they go by, I think they should be 10 games over 500 and everyone else should be under 500. But that's not how baseball works, unfortunately.
Apparently you don't have to touch home either. So I know I'd be first if that was the case, but
yeah, that's true. But we digress. So that's not how baseball works. So I'm excited. I think they're going to do this. Let's get in these trade deadline acquisitions because these are the guys that are really helping us. I think the big thing is the rotation's been great all season, and I think that's what's going to carry these Braves. But these additions, these guys have to step up and play very good players because of who they're replacing, which is Ronald Acuna and Marcell Ozuna, guys we expected to be obviously Acuna was an all-star, but Marcell Ozuna, we expected him to be an all-star. Huge pieces of this team, and you're replacing him with Jock Peterson, Eddie Rosario, Adam Duvall, and Jorge Soler. I mean, that's basically, you're hoping those four guys can somehow replace that production. And so far, they've done it. I mean, Peterson, since getting traded for Bryce Ball, has been fantastic. Adam Duvall already has a couple homers, and you almost feel like, why the hell was he not on the Braves all year? Because he's only making $3 million this year and has a player option for $5 million, $2 million this year. $2 million this year. That's how much he's making. And he has a $3 million buyout next year, $5 million option that they team option, which I think the Braves will probably pick up. So it's kind of crazy he's wasn't on the team all year, but that's one of the many decisions I've questioned on Alex Anthopoulos. Jorge Soler you get for Casey College. He was hitting 196 coming over here, but he sure doesn't look like a guy who's hitting 196 so far. And obviously Richard Rodriguez has been very good out of the bullpen so far in about 5 appearances. So far these guys are living it up. We haven't seen Eddie Rosario. I think he's supposed to start rehabbing this week and then maybe join the team in 2 weeks, something like that.
Yeah.
But these guys got to keep that up, or this team doesn't have much of a chance in the playoffs. I think they could still get there if these guys aren't all-stars. But if they're going to make some noise, I mean, we need Jocktober. We need Jorge Soler to just drop tanks all over the place. And we need Richard Rodriguez to pitch like a lights-out closer.
Yeah, and, you talk about, Alex Anthopoulos. He made a mistake letting Adam Duvall go. We can all agree on that. Hindsight is 2020. I will say I'm gonna beat my own chest here for a second. I was 100% in on Jock Peterson to the Braves. I wanted him so badly. I was like, he's the perfect bench bat against righties. All this yada yada yada. It sucks you have to give up Bryce Ball for him, but hey, we are where we are. Alex Jackson actually playing pretty well for the Marlins. Good for him. As long as he doesn't hit a home run against us, which he probably won't. Alex Jackson, good for him, man. I never personally disliked him.
Yeah, he had no place with Shea Langeliers and William Contreras coming up. There's no way he was going to ever really carve out much of a role for himself.
Langeliers could be in Gwinnett right now. He could probably be in Gwinnett right now. Let's be honest.
I mean, he's definitely. You cannot tell me Shea Langeliers is not better than Kevon Smith. You cannot tell me. There's absolutely no way.
Yeah,
there's no way.
We get on Alex Anthopoulos, but he, like I said, I gave him a B at the deadline. I said, if you got one more bullpen arm, I give you a B+, and you have to get a bona fide superstar and not get ripped off to get anything above a B+. That's just my personal grading system. If you don't like it, come up with your own. But the whole one more bullpen arm, I don't know if that was totally right. I might be able to switch to a B+ off that because the Braves haven't really needed it, which is not something I think a lot of people saw coming. Obviously myself included. And, if the price wasn't right, I don't blame him. But you gave up Bryce Ball, which sucks. Bryce actually came on the OG podcast. He's cool as shit. I hope he has a long career in Chicago. He has a real chance to replace Rizzo, and I hope he gets that shot. But you give up Pablo Sandoval, who you could have cut, and you get Eddie Rosario for him. And I think that's just
thanks.
Thanks. Appreciate. And they sent us money. What
I don't even understand. I don't understand that at
What's
all.
their angle?
I mean, Rosario is not having a good year this year, but other than that, he was like an 800 OPS plus guy for 3 years in a row, and was like top 20 in the MVP race twice.
I thought I was missing something because it said they sent us money. And I was doing the write up, and I was like, and we sent them money, and it's basically like, no, we didn't send them money. They sent us money. I'm like, oh, what did they get out of this? But anyway.
Then they just let Pablo Sandoval go. I mean, not that they would keep him, but I don't get it.
Yeah, and you give up Alex Jackson, who everybody kind of didn't really see a place for anyways, and he's going to get to play every day in Miami. Bryce Wilson going to get to play every day in Pittsburgh. Ricky DeVito, actually a solid prospect. Casey Kalick, I actually really like his long-term projectability.
He was on. Do you remember he was on the OG podcast too? Casey Kalick. Yes, he did. We got him on there right after he broke his arm skateboarding. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Okay. So for some reason, I thought that was Kyle Muller. We had Kyle Muller on too. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. No, that was Casey Kalick. Yes. No. Yes, I remember him being on there. I feel like it was probably his first interview because he had just gotten out of Texas A&M and.
Yeah. He said so, he broke his hand.
Skateboarding.
He's like, I can't reload my shotgun.
I was like, damn, we got some breaking news on the pod. Casey Kalick just broke his arm.
Yeah, because now I remember the article. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Well, anyways, I always kind of liked Casey though. He was kind of solid.
I mean, he was another Texas A&M reliever. I mean, him and Ricky DeVito both projected as relievers. So, I mean, but when you're talking about winning now, which I think the Braves had to give themselves a chance. I think we all would have been pissed if they didn't. Look, I mean, now we're 2 games out. We definitely should have been pissed if we had just waved the white flag and sold. which is what a lot of Braves fan wanted to do. Those people are crazy. Those people should all be on Just Stop Tweeting. He has a 5 games like lead with the Mets, who were just playing awful baseball. Should not just be like a situation where you just give up. I mean, especially when you have a rotation that has like a sub-3 ERA for 2 months. Like, you can win games if you just put a half decent lineup on the field. And that's what these additions were. Nothing flashy, but I just feel so much more confident now than I did before the trade deadline. We fall behind, and I don't feel like we just lost the game. It was like, if we were down 2-0, I was like, shit, we lost. We can't score. But now it's like you have so many guys. Like Adam Duvall can change the game with one swing of the bat. Soler, Jock Peterson, all these guys, they can change a ball game with one swing. And that's really the difference. It also instills so much confidence in the team. Like, you always feel like you have a chance. There's no way, even though they never would have told you this, there's no way those guys felt down 4-0 against a decent ball club that they could come back and win with that lineup they had on the field. They're not going to say that, but I guarantee you there's a feeling in the back of their head where they're just like, shit, here we go again. Like, we just can't score like that. But now with these guys, they feel like they can win every game, even if they're down 5-1, even if they're down 4-2. There's a feeling in that clubhouse, and it changes everything. And you can tell by the way they played over these last, weeks since the deadline.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty safe to say that there is a bit of a funk hanging around whenever the whole thing happened with Marcell Ozuna. We were talking about it. The night that happened, I think they were playing the Yankees. But I was at the game, and like Ronald was literally going up to bat, and he just had the bat on his shoulder. And Ian Anderson got shelled for like 7 runs. Just nobody cared less. And I think a lot of that kind of put them in a little bit of a funk, like that whole situation. And that lasted a few weeks, and they started to get out of it. But we talk about them coming together as a team and playing like as a unit and all cylinders clicking. I think they're finally kind of starting to get past that.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels that way, and I definitely think that has everything to do with just these additions, because it gives you a feeling that you can win every game. Jorge Soler, we're going to get into our first fan question, which is really from me. But Jorge Soler, I think he already has 2 or 3 bombs already, and they've been some nice hits.
They weren't wall scrapers, yeah,
no. So these guys can change the game, and I think he had like 6 homers in 9 games before he was traded. So even though he's hitting sub 200, this guy in 2000, I think it was 19, hit like 48 bombs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's ever hit above 20 besides that year or something like that.
Yeah, which I don't know what he was on, maybe a little bit of steroids. I'm not going to speculate. But, I mean, the guy went crazy. He also led the league with like 180 strikeouts. So he's definitely a strikeout or walk or bomb.
He just got hot, man. Like, he's just got to get hot. I like that Alex Anthopoulos did that. Like, I know a lot of people were – I don't remember who said this to me. This is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. But I said something about trading for somebody, and he's like, we need more contact hitters. I'm like, no, we don't. Like, we actually don't, because contact really doesn't do shit if you don't have guys who can't hit for power, like, at all. So I would rather just go and get a bunch of guys who are liable to hit a bomb and then hope everything comes together.
Which is exactly what he did. I mean, Eddie Rosario is a little bit more of a contact guy. Not a big contact guy. I don't think he's ever hit really more than like 270, but Peterson, Duvall, and Soler, I mean, those are 3 outcome guys. They're hitting tanks. They're striking out. They're walking for the most part. I mean, obviously they'll hit a single here and there, but that's what those guys do. But here is our first fan question, and it's from me, yours truly, because I really want to know this. I really want to know what Jake thinks about this. So I was watching Jorge Soler get called out on a strike that was a strike, so he shouldn't have been beefing with the ump. But, he didn't think it was a strike, and he turned around pretty fiercely and got in the ump's face. And I tweeted something out. I was like, Jorge Soler has been a Brave for 2 days, and I already know I would not want to fight him. And I looked up like how big he is. He's 6'4", 235, and he looks every bit of it. He probably doesn't have an ounce of fat on his body.
He's probably like 4% body fat or something.
Yeah. He's an absolute beast, which is why he hit 48 bombs. And I just want to know, Jake, how many me and yous, Chases and Jakes, would it take to defeat one angry Jorge Soler?
All right. We gotta lay some ground rules here. How many drinks have each of us had so far?
I mean, it has, like, you have to understand that it's probably a lot if we're fighting an angry Jorge Soler.
Probably, yeah.
We are probably 8 Rumplemans deep apiece, 4 whiskey waters, and we can barely see straight. But we can have multiples of us. There can be 9 of us all in that condition, but they're all in that condition.
So I've given it some thought. And so I don't know how many of you have actually met me. I've met a few of you. I'm about 6'1", 6'2", maybe 165 pounds, what you would call a bit of a string bean, and that's okay. But I would say it would take a couple more of me. Chase is a bigger guy. Chase is a little bit bigger than me.
Yeah, I'm like 5'10", 180.
So I would go, if it's one guy, I mean, you got to think at a certain point, the numbers are just going to
The numbers, this is what I think you have to do. Like, so if it's just us two, like he's going to knock one of us out and then the other one's screwed. So like we're definitely above 2. And let's say we have to do multiples. Like, so let's say there's 4 of us, 2 of you and 2 of me. Like our 2 clones would have to be able to grab him. We'd have to be able to restrain him. If we can grab him and restrain him and limit his knockout power, I think we have a good chance. I think we have a good chance of beating him.
I would say my initial thoughts, I said minimum. If we're talking minimum, I said 3 of you, 2 of me.
See, I think we could do 2. I think 2 of each of us gets it done.
2 of each. That's fair. But I mean,
I think 2 of each of us gets it. It could be more. I could be wrong because I've always talked about guys. If you talk to any guy who's been in a lot of fights, they'll say, especially ones where they're like on a 1-on-3. And it's like, if you beat up the first guy bad enough, the other 2 guys kind of just stay away, So like, there's got to be more than 3 of us because like, I feel like if after, our 2 clones watch our 2 heads get popped off, like they're probably running away.
I've seen a guy like kick 3 guys' asses. And
without a doubt.
I've seen Jorge Soler. So I'm going to go ahead. I would say 3's too little.
Yeah, 3's too little. I think 4. I think 4 at a minimum. That would be my minimum. It could be more.
Efficiency, it should probably be 3 of you and 1 of me.
It could. Yeah, I mean the thing is, if we can just get him to the ground or like restrain his power, we should be able to win. But that's all I'm saying. But the problem is if he hits one of us with a knockout and we're automatically down to 3, then we're in trouble. Then we are in immediate trouble, and we might just run after that. So. There's no concrete answer. Hopefully we'll never have to know. But
Jorge Soler seems like a cool guy. I'm not like
this is more. Yeah, I would never want to fight Jorge Soler. I'm giving him credit here. I'm basically talking about a beast. But this hypothetical is something that I really felt like we needed to evaluate on the first episode of Blooper's Brigade. It really had to be evaluated.
All right,
people needed to know, and I need to know. Like, I need someone to tweet at us, when they listen to this, how many of them it would take to beat up one angry Jorge Soler. That is the viewers. That's your homework assignment. How many of you would it take to beat one angry Jorge Soler? So we do have a couple other fan questions, which. Only a couple others. I'm not gonna lie and be like, oh, we're only answering 2. No, you guys only asked 3.
You guys bombard us with questions all day long. We ask for them. We can't get we can't get more than 2. Really?
I'm like, I don't get it. I get 15 questions a game, but then we ask for them and it's crickets. But it's to each their own. If you want to ever respond to the Twitter and get your questions answered, we'll do this. We'll do this on every podcast. But one of the questions was regarding Richard Rodriguez and Will Smith. Who's going to be the closer? Do you think he goes to Rodriguez? I think he's probably going to stick with Smith until Rodriguez unless he really starts to blow. If he blows more saves, obviously this becomes more of an issue, and I think that's a possibility. I don't think Smith's spot is set in stone, but as I've said, he was really good before before he blew up the other day. He had been sub 1 ERA in his last 19 appearances. So you're not going to just move him out of the closer's role, especially for a guy like Richard Rodriguez, who was struggling before he came here. And that guy's never pitched in pressure situations. Like, he's closed games, but closing a game for the Pirates is a lot different than closing a game in a pennant race.
Oh, God. Shout out who they're from, too. That was that Kyle Condra kid, right? Wasn't it?
I think he asked, no, someone else. Sorry. I got like off of it.
Oh, you're good.
I got off of it. I don't know why, but I lost it, and I just remembered that one. I know the other one was Kyle Condra. Shout out to him. He's always interacting with their stuff. We appreciate people that constantly interact with us. We like talking, answering your questions. He asked any big moves in the future that you'd like to see the Braves made. Personally, I think we're probably going to be both on the same page with here. I don't really think the Braves need to make huge moves. So it really kind of depends what you mean by huge moves. I think the core of this team is set in stone. My biggest move would be extending Freddie Freeman. I'd love to extend Dansby Swanson. Maybe start talking about an extension with Max Fried. I would like to lock in the core of this team and then kind of piece around it. I think we'll see how they respond in the outfield with Marcell Ozuna. We don't really know what's going to happen to that after this year. I think he's going to get suspended.
Yeah.
But
when's this coming out? We don't know yet.
I don't know.
I'll keep that one to myself for now. You'll see on what's tomorrow. You'll see August 10th at about 10:30 a.m.
So probably about the time that before this even gets podcast, we'll know. So this will be out, but still, regardless, we'll see how that shakes out, and maybe they make a big move in the outfield. But you still have Pache and Waters and Michael Harris. So I really think the core pieces of this team are intact. Maybe when Charlie Morton, if he doesn't want to get extended, maybe you go out there and sign like kind of a big name starting pitcher. I wouldn't mind seeing something like that to go along with a lot of these young guys. But other than that, I mean, I think the lineup wise, if you extend Freddie and Dansby, and some guys like Drew Waters and Christian Pache, one of those guys pans out. This group's pretty much locked in. I mean, I think we know Austin Riley's staying at third, Ozzy's staying at second, Acuna's out there in right field. The rest of the outfield, that's a little bit of a question mark. I think they'll keep Jock Peterson. What do you think? Peterson and Duvall next year?
Yeah, I see no reason not to keep either one of them. I mean, even if they just end up as bench bats, they're two incredibly good bench bats. I'm going to play in Jake's fantasy land, which you guys know I love to do all the time. Let's say that Liberty Media decides to spend a little money this offseason. I think Carlos Rodon is a free agent, which he'll probably want to go back to the White Sox, considering they're contending pretty highly at this point, and they're a better team than the Braves. But he's a lefty. You talk about a Drew Smyly replacement, but that's a guy you can lock up for a couple years. And he was an all-star this year. He's incredibly talented. I think they could go get a starter. We'll have to see how Mike Soroka, his injury progresses. Obviously, okay, we said don't rush him last time, and I guess the guy just has a freak injury to end all freak injuries. Now you really can't rush him. So you're going to have to go into next year. Are you comfortable with Tukey? A lot of it depends on how the rest of this plays out.
Well, I mean, you got Kyle Mueller,
you
Tucker Davidson.
Yeah,
you got to think about Davidson.
Another OG podcast guest.
Anderson, Fried. I mean, you have to think at least three of those guys: Anderson, Fried, Soroka, Davidson, Mueller, Toussaint. At least three or four of those guys is going to be in your rotation. I mean, you have to think that. I mean, you would think. But I do think, adding one big star name to really solidify that group, kind of like Morton's been able to do. But I think Morton might retire. If he doesn't, I'd love to have him back.
Yeah.
But if not someone of that caliber, I think that's something they'll target. And then outfield. I think the outfield, they'll probably bring back one of Duvall or Jock Peterson and make an outfield move, depending on what happens with Marcell Ozuna, which we don't know.
Yeah. Hopefully Ronald's better to start the year. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I don't have any insight into that.
I think he'll be okay. Those things are big, but just for those, as young as Ronald is, as athletic as he is, I think he's going to be one of those guys who comes back pretty quickly.
DOB, which by the way, credit to DOB, he's been much better on social media lately. I think he's figured out how to not get himself made fun of. but
I mean, he's like 60 on Twitter. You can't really. What do you expect?
He actually made a pretty good point. When you talk about Ronald plays so hard, and that's Bryce Harper used to play the same way, and Bryce Harper kind of had to reel it in a little bit, but he's still a really good player, and he just doesn't really, he's not a bull in a china shop anymore. And he says Ronald could kind of take that step back and kind of be a little more guarded, especially when out in the field. And I don't hate that. I don't know if Ronald's going to do that. I don't know if that's in his personality type, but I could definitely see that same type of trajectory.
Yeah, it would suck. I mean, I get it. Like, for the well-being of him, I absolutely agree with you. And that's probably what we're going to see happening. But I do kind of always think, like, man, I want that 40-40 season or that 50-50. Yeah, I mean, I want that 50-50 season. I just think he's one of the few players that could ever pull something off like that, like a 45-45 or 50-50, something truly incredible, because he's that talented. And I think it's only a matter of time before he has 50 bombs in a season. And if he slows it down, which I expect him to do, the steals probably go down with that. But it would have been really cool to see him.
He's probably going to be fun.
Oh, I mean, I think his power is just unbelievable. The guy, as his plate discipline just keeps getting better, and that power. I mean, that he's going to start hitting 50, 55
He had
bombs,
what?
and there's no doubt about it.
24 home runs when he got hurt. I mean, he was hot there for a little bit, but
I mean, he was on pace for like 46 or 48 or something. Yeah. Like he was very close to getting 50. So it just, and you know how he goes. Like if he's on pace he could be on pace for 48, but he could hit 10 home runs in 15 days. He's just, when he gets hot, it's over. So it sucks, but we have I guess kind of wrapping up, talking about injuries. We have some injury updates to and Anderson. They are stretching back out to become a starter. We mentioned him possibly going into relief. I think they're just doing their due diligence, like leaving that option open. Maybe he makes the start. I still think when Anderson comes back, if he comes back healthy, there's is going to the bullpen. I don't, because I just think it fits so perfectly in the bullpen. He's a big arm. He touches triple digits, and he's a wipeout slider. He's really a 2-pitch pitcher for the most part. So I've always thought, if guys like Davidson and Mueller pan out, Kiki Toussaint pan out, and you get enough guys in the rotation that it could be a closer of the future. I mean, he has that kind of stuff with that slider fastball combination, which is all you really need for one inning of work. And I think I did an article on him, like his first time through the order, he's pretty much like dominates. So I'm interested to see. I think that's where he ends up. Travis d'Arnaud, by the time we release this podcast, he should be back. And Anderson, I would say he's probably like 2 weeks away. He's only had one rehab start through like 50 pitches. He's probably go up to like 70, 80.
Yeah, I wouldn't rush him. I don't really see the reason to rush him. Especially
I mean, get him back for September and just solidify that bullpen. The last thing I really wanted to say, and we can chat about this for a few minutes, crack any jokes that we want to, and it's a farewell to Kevon Smith, the Braves legend, Kevon Smith, who had a 448 OPS for his Braves career, which will qualify as the third worst ever in Braves history. How about that?
Who's first?
I don't know. I saw that tweet, and I was like, I really should have asked who is first and second. But I think it was like 401st out of 403rd batters that qualify. He will finish with the lowest OPS. And I don't know if that includes pitchers. Probably does, because he has been that awful. And I really have no idea why. I guess people keep saying that phrase, like, "Ooh, pitchers like to throw to him." Like, I get it. Like, I played baseball, and I pitched a lot. And I will say one thing: having a good catcher does matter. Like that is such an underrated aspect. Having a guy who knows your game, knows how to call a game, knows how to reliable, blah blah blah. But first of all, I never looked at Kevin Smith and was like, "Wow, he's an elite defensive catcher." I mean, he dropped balls, he let balls pass at inopportune times. But he could not hit worth a crap. I mean, he was a walking double play or strikeout every time. He could barely get the ball in the air. I mean, he's one of the worst major league hitters I've ever seen. I feel bad for him that I'm trashing him like this, but it's just the facts. And I don't know how they didn't just call William Contreras or Alex Jackson back up and leave him there. But it looks like his time is finally coming to an end. But who knows? They could DFA Stephen Vogt. I'm not leaving. You never know. They could.
I would honestly, obviously I would be a little ticked off, but really, like, can you imagine the content if they DFA Stephen Vogt?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that would be views galore. I mean, we could probably make a whole nother podcast just about that. And as much as I'd be really surprised, catcher is such a weird position. And it's not like Stephen Vogt is like this fantastic offensive superpower. But if you're not going to go with Vogt, don't roll with Smith. Give me William Contreras. The guy's out absolutely mashing in AAA. At least when he's up to the plate, you think he could hit a bomb. Like, he is liable to hit a bomb at any time he steps up to the plate. Kevin Smith he's liable to get ground out. He's hit probably 10 fly balls. His fly ball rate has to be like 5%. Like he just never gets the ball out of the infield. What?
I'm gonna pull up his stats. Are you gonna look at Baseball Savant? His ground ball rate, all the analytics.
He never hits if he hits a fly ball. I wish there was a stat for how many fly balls he hit over 300 feet. I don't think he's hit one. But
I guess I'm just soft. I kind of feel bad for the guy just because, like, if somebody posted that screenshot where somebody just DM'd him on Instagram and was like, "Dude, you fucking suck. I hope you die." And I'm like, all right, well, like somebody's had to pay
we used to have a Harrison Coburn who used to work with us. His little brother one time like DM'd Kent Bazemore Like after we signed Kent Bazemore to the Hawks signed Kent Bazemore to that $70 million contract, and he was just awful, and it was obvious that was just going to hamper the Hawks, hamstring them for years. And he tweeted, and Carson was like 14 at the time, and just started was like, you suck, like blah, blah, blah. And then Kent Bazemore responded and was like, hey, little kid, see if you'll say that to me after this season. And was like a really like quirky, but kind of like nice and like, I'm going to prove you wrong response. And I was like, damn, I can't believe people actually do that to these guys.
See, the difference is the guy that did it to Kevin Smith was probably like 37.
Yeah, it's probably some 60-year-old like grandpa on Braves Facebook who friend requested him.
I have some Kevin Smith stats for you if you're interested.
I am very interested.
He's striking out at a 29.2% rate, which is pretty high.
That's very high. Not as high as Dansby Swanson, I don't think, but very high.
Probably not. His isolated power is .032.
That's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. Yeah, that is the stat that I needed.
Yeah, that's a little incredible.
That's got to be what me and you would hit up there.
his weighted runs above average, which is something just Fangraphs has worked up, but I see the number is -10.2, and I've never seen one that low. So I'm going to go ahead and say that's pretty low. His average exit velocity is 87.5. His barrel percentage is 1.5%.
That is one of the worst. That means he has what, one barrel? He probably has one barrel all season.
He has 22 hard hit balls in 106 plate appearances.
So his barrel percentage is legit 1. I'm pretty sure he has 1 or 2.
Yeah, I seriously. I mean, it depends on how many walks he's drawn, which is not many because his strike to walkout ratio is like 0.32. So,
so he probably legit has 1 barreled ball all season.
He has a 56% ground ball percentage, which he actually has 63% in 2018. So apparently this isn't a new thing. Okay, here you go. Hard hit contact percentage of balls in play that were classified as hard hit, 31%. Soft contact is 14% and medium is 54%.
I feel like that's better than usual, but I don't look at that stat very often, so I don't know what other people look like. So there's no way that can be good.
No, absolutely.
It sounds better than it is.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I would think soft. I would think soft
medium
contact
is probably like a routine ground ball, and soft contact is probably like a dribbler in front of the plate,
or like a pop up to the pitcher, yeah. It's pretty amazing, dude. And the scary part is like, I feel like I would say there's a 15% chance like they somehow keep him overvoted. I just think there's, for some reason, maybe they're just like, but Vogt's a lefty, so no way. There's no way, right? There's no way.
Look,
there's no way. There's no way.
If I was Alex Anthopoulos, I would do it just to make everybody on Twitter mad. Just to see. Yeah. Just to see.
See, that's a moment where Alex Anthopoulos needs his own Twitter right there. Like, imagine doing that.
Like, Kevin's a good guy.
What if he just tweeted out something like, "Who should I designate for assignment? Kevin Smith or Stephen Vogt?" Put a poll.
Oh man!
And what if he turned off the responses to it? So it's just the poll.
Oh yeah, if I was like a Mets fan or a Phillies fan, I'd be like, everybody go vote Stephen Vogt.
And he just trolls you and designates Vogt. He just says, "No, we're keeping Kevin Smith."
Stranger things have happened. Look, if they do DFA Vogt, I'm gonna. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I think everybody on Twitter will have.
I'm just gonna laugh. Like at that point, I'm like, there's nothing else I could do but laugh. Like I'm not gonna get mad. Like what am I gonna do? I'm just gonna be like, are you kidding me? Like this has to be a troll job. Like he's messing with us. Like Alex Anthopoulos is laughing his ass off. Like it's almost like when we've had a few too many drinks on Twitter, and we just start trolling random people. It's like that's what Anthopoulos is probably doing. Like he probably had 6 whiskey cokes. And now he's like, oh, I'm going to DFA Vogt and piss everybody off and go look at it.
This is way more power than we do.
He's like, I am literally going to piss off 10 million people.
Hey, like I said, if Ender Inciarte hits a home run against us this week, I don't know if he'll get called up. He probably won't.
Talk about another more great content though. If we could get an Ender Inciarte walk-off bomb, we might get
the profile.
We might get 100,000 views.
Look, and you know what? I said it from the beginning. I'm not even going to be mad. I can't be mad. We begged for him to go away for months, and if he hits a home run, that's
the thing about when we were talking about like the Bryce Balls and the Bryce Wilsons, and even like Ender Inciarte and Alex Jackson. I know like trades are kind of determined 3 years down the line when you see what these prospects are made of, but these are guys that the Braves didn't really need. So I kind of wish them all the best. Like, there's no way that I'm cheering for Bryce Ball to go out there and ball out. Same with Bryce Wilson and same with Alex Jackson and everyone they traded. So I felt like when we traded for Melanson, like with Colby Allard and stuff, like I kind of was like, oh, I don't want him to do good. Like, I don't want Wentz to become a stud. But with these guys, I feel like, especially Bryce Ball, who came on the podcast, like his first year as a prospect, like I hope he goes out there and balls out. There's no way he was going to play for the Braves, so it makes sense to deal him now and keep things going. But
if he did end up playing for the Braves, we would have bigger problems because that means we didn't resign.
Lost Freddie, which that will be probably something we can talk about next episode. But unless you got anything else, that pretty much wraps up our first episode of Bloopers Brigade. Yes, we're going to keep that. No, we don't care if you think the name sucks. And appreciate you listening. We're going to have weekly episodes, probably have some bi-weekly episodes as we get into the playoffs and stuff like that. But until then, we'll talk to you guys next week.
Yeah, make sure you, like I said, go check us both out, SportsTalkATL.com. If you're not coming over from the site, which I would be surprised if you weren't, but we put out a lot of content, and we have some spicy opinions, and we crack a lot of jokes. So
Yeah, and you can check out our Twitter handles below at Irle Chase. Yeah, you don't have to tell me. We spell Earl weird in my family. Can't guard Jake is Jake's. But yeah, please go check us out. Yeah. They can't guard you, but everyone can guard Michael Thomas, even the Saints.
I have both my ankles, so.
All right.